Okay, people, we got an exciting topic to discuss today. Quitting cigarettes. Is it a very hard obstacle to overcome, or is it a fun game? I'm going to show you both options. And what I'll be discussing with you today involves the IC solution that we've developed at the Instinct Center to basically break any habit or start any new project that you want. And before we get into the cigarette discussion, I'm going to give you a quick overview so you understand what it is, just in case you've never heard of it before. I'm going to share my screen with you here. Select, boom, moving my head front and center. All right. The default perspective that you are born with is that over here on the left, that you are all the thoughts and the emotions that go on inside your head, and all the behaviors that you carry out are of your own accord. With the IC perspective, IC stands for the instinctual core. We look at that primitive reactive part of your brain as a totally separate entity that is inside your head, and it's there for your survival, but it's not there for your survival in this world. It's there for your survival in a world of 30,000 years ago. It has no idea how to function. And you can take on the IC perspective and see that thing is separate from you. And it's constantly trying to hijack the subconscious in all the things it's doing wrong in this world. So that brings us to smoking. And I'm going to tell you two stories about how I worked with, well, one person I worked with to quit smoking, and one person he told me the story of how he quit smoking. So we got Mark, who quit smoking on his own, and we got Chelsea, who quit smoking with the IC solution. And obviously, I never reveal real names. These are mock-up names, just so you know. And let me get rid of this and show you here. This is the user's guide for the instinctual core. And I'm going to show you how that works if you're not familiar with it. Right here, you have the instinctual core. And right up here, you have yourself, your brain. And the instinctual core is basically trying to achieve three things: to attain a treat, to avoid a threat, or to destroy a threat. That's it. And it does so on a variety of different layers beyond just the immediate threats. Okay, so first of all, let me talk about Mark and how he quit smoking. He quit smoking with that other picture that I just showed you. And by the way, I just started making these videos, and they are going to suck for a while. I'm going to have a lot of ums and uhs, but I've been developing this solution for almost a decade now, and I've been putting off this part of actually presenting it to people. And so they're going to suck. They're going to suck. And I'm not going to spend a week editing every video. So it just deal. We'll get to all the points. Here we go. Getting back. We're dealing with Mark here. Mark believed all the thoughts and things going on in his head were his own. So every day he got up and had this battle. I quit smoking. I'm not doing that ever again. But at the same time, there was something inside him yelling, go get a cigarette, go get a cigarette, you need it. And it was sending all these emotions and these feelings and these agitations and these cravings, screaming at him. And Mark has incredible willpower. Obviously, if you've ever tried to quit smoking, you know how hard it is. But Mark was able to do it. And when he did it at the age of 35. He called it his miserable year. He was angry for an entire year, trying to get over it. He never gave in, but he was just pissed off. Can you imagine just being pissed off because your head is yelling at you to quit for a year and still managing to make it through that whole time? I don't have that type of willpower. I had the same problem with alcohol. The inside of my head would yell at me to go get that alcohol, and I never, over an 8-year period, never made it more than 6 months, and then dropped into the full, worse, horrible scenario of being drunk, drinking 24/7 until I had to check myself into a detox, and I've been to 16 of them. It sucks. Addiction sucks, and I know it sucks until I took on the IC perspective. And that's where I started to realize that thing yelling at me, and I'm not going to go through why the instinctual core was yelling at me to get a drink. Today, I'm going to go through why the instinctual core yells at you to get a cigarette, or to whoever, or to Chelsea in this case, who we're talking about. Because when we helped Chelsea get over smoking, she was able to quit and stop having cravings within 2 weeks. And during that time, when she was having the cravings, she was enjoying the challenge that came with it. So let me show you how that worked. Okay, so first of all, let's break down why the instinctual core would want you to smoke. And it starts on the pecking order layer. Now, what I'm presenting to you is that you never even started smoking, or Chelsea never even started smoking, and she agreed. It was peer pressure that made her do it. It was seeing her friends doing it, and that something inside of her wanted to fit in with those friends. You don't create peer pressure. That is not something that you decide, hey, I'm going to have peer pressure exist. Peer pressure is an instinctual thing. Back in the day, if you weren't part of your tribe, you were ejected from your tribe, or you're useless to your tribe, you died. Peer pressure is necessary for your survival. It doesn't work that way anymore. But the pecking order layer would send people cravings to fit in, demands, fit in with your group, judgments, go be a part. And then let's say not as many emotions before you start smoking, but the peer pressure is a very serious thing, and it makes you want to attain the treat of belonging in your tribe. So Chelsea realized, hey, it wasn't even her that decided to start smoking in the first place. It was the instinctual core that hijacked her to do it. Next, once she did have that cigarette, and I'm very lucky, I had a few cigarettes in my day when I was drinking, but when I never got addicted to it because it makes me want to vomit. So I'm very fortunate there. But I know for a lot of people, it just gives you this wonderful, warm buzz feeling. Okay, so that right there on its own, that warm feeling is a way to get you out of any threats that you're feeling. So say the instinctual core is confused about work because you no longer face those threats that you did 30,000 years ago, where you've got to get that next meal or you're dead, or you've got to run away from that saber-toothed tiger or you're dead. Rather, so it's still looking for threats everywhere. So it turns your job and pretty much everything into the same threats, the same level of threat. It feels like if you lose your job, you're going to die. Not you're going to have to work hard to go find another job and it's going to be a bit of a pain in the butt. It sees that as that last buffalo. You are dead. So it's constantly sending fear at you when someone threatens your job, and like fear that you're not going to be able to accomplish what you need at your job, and anger if your boss tells you you're doing a bad job. You want to destroy the threat, and you want to run from the threat. So it's constantly creating these real life or death scenarios. That's why they call them lighting fires. But the instinctual core has what we call reward confusion, because it cannot achieve security in your job. You do not have that job security. It constantly thinks your life is a threat. So it needs a reward somewhere. Where does that come from? Aha, get that cigarette and all that stress goes away. In comes the pleasure. You've attained the treat. And for a moment, you're able to relax. But the truth is, the fear that it's throwing out was never real in the first place. Your job is not a matter of life and death. You may think it is, but you got to learn. When you start to learn to believe that it's not, you can start to move your job up to these layers of intrigue, appreciation, and engagement. We're not going to get into that right now. But anyways, so that is on the safety layer. So that is when I call it the creep down effect. It started on the pecking order when instinctual core made you start smoking. Now it's making you go get that treat because it needs to have some reward since you're not getting that reward at the job. And then it plays the worst trick of all. It starts to say, wait a second, this cigarette is so, it basically short circuits the whole system. And it says this, when it sends you that pleasure, it's saying, I'm so proud of you. You've done a good job. You need that cigarette. That cigarette is more important than, is so important to your survival, not just to get rid of work stress. Now it starts to creep down. It becomes more important than food. It becomes more important than water. It becomes more important than breathing. Until that point where you're smoking 3 packs a day. It creeps down, and that's the addictive effect of it. It creeps down onto the physiological layer, where when we look at it from the instinctual core's point of view, why is it sending us, go get it, go get it, go get it? It believes that we really need it. The only thing the instinctual core does is try to save our life. And that things like alcohol, things like cigarettes short circuit it into thinking we deserve a reward for putting poisons in ourselves. So when you start to realize this, you start to think, aha, I know what's going on here. Okay? So now when you make an overriding decision to say you are not, coming back to this picture, bum, 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 bum. When you make the overriding decision up here to say, you are not smoking anymore, you are separate from your instinctual core, and all the nonsense it's put in your subconscious is lies, then you can start to see it for what it really is. You don't want that cigarette, but there's something inside of you that's misfunctioning that does. And it's filling you with a bunch of lies, a bunch of manipulations to get that cigarette. And rather than feeling constantly annoyed, you'll start to realize you are not it's not putting you in a constant state of stress to get that cigarette. The instinctual event that it sets off for that craving each time lasts only about 3 minutes. Okay? So once you catch it and start to think about it, aha, I've caught you, instinctual core. Chelsea did this, caught it each time and watched it and let it cool, let it calm down. And then it was gone in 3 minutes. Maybe she would get another one in 15 minutes. Maybe she would get another one in half an hour. But prior to that, she always thought it was a constant. It's not a constant. It's instinctual events that get set off. And the more you catch them, and the more you tell that instinctual core, no, we're not giving you, we're not going to do that. That is not saving our life. The instinctual core, instead of getting louder, which is what it does over here, when you thought it was you yelling, instead of getting louder, it gets quieter each time. It's like training a puppy. It's like training that puppy not to jump on the bed, right? The puppy in the beginning, when that puppy knows it's going to get on the bed, every time it barks and barks and barks, eventually it's going to get on the bed until that one day that you say, actually, we're not letting you on the bed. It doesn't matter how long you bark. In a few days, that puppy's going to say, oh, well, I'm going to go sleep in my actual bed. Same thing with the instinctual core. When you tell it, when you say, I'm running the show now, I'm not going to let you have that cigarette because it's not saving our life, the instinctual core will actually start to say, hey, I'm feeling better. I get it. And it's going to start to be proud of you for doing it. You're going to feel a sense of accomplishment. And it's going to send you pleasure for not smoking. At the end of the day, you're going to say, I didn't have a cigarette today. And it's going to send a different set of chemicals that's going to make you feel great. And in a few weeks, that screaming that it's doing is going to turn into a whisper. Hopefully. It worked for Chelsea. This is something I'm just going live with to the world. I've got everything set up for you guys to work through any bad habits, start any new projects that you're working on, and it's all beta. We're doing it all for free. This is not medical. This is just self-help, teaching you a new system, a new way to think about yourselves. And we'd love to have you join us to work on any part of yourself. This is all about collaboration and working together to investigate our mutual instinctual cores that work in a very similar way in all of us. So come check us out at the Instinct Center. I'm just starting these support videos, but I'm going to be trying to post at least 2 a day. But I can't wait to meet you if you want to get something started yourself. Okay? Adios.